Okay, so people will still be joining, but let's begin. Hi, everyone. My name is Liat. I'm product marketing for ad intelligence here at Similarweb, and I'm happy to host this webinar today talking about AI ads, every advertising that's happening in LLMs, covering ChatGPT, Google AI Overview, and Google AI Mode. Thank you for joining us today. During this session, we'll have three different parts. The first part I will lead, and it's an overview of the AI search landscape. Why is this relevant now? Why are we even having this webinar? Then I'll pass it on to Harel Amir, our head of product and business here at Ad Intelligence, and he will share insights from our recent report covering AI ads and all the data points that we were able to collect and cover from ChatGPT, Google AI Mode, and Google AI Overview. And then we are very happy to be joined by Jonathan Balvardi, Head of Strategy at Natural Intelligence, a real advertiser on ChatGPT, and one of the top 3 spenders there, to share a look from the inside. So let's begin. During the talk, our Q&A is open. Please feel free to drop questions that you have. We'll try to answer them during the session, and we'll also have some time at the end of the session for Q&A. So before we dive into really talking about what's happening in paid, I think we need to look to take a step back and look at what's happening in Gen AI. So we're seeing 2 main common pain points for marketeers. The first one is everything that has to do with traffic. Organic click share is down 11 to 23 percentage points across almost every vertical. This was a study that was done last February using Similarweb data. And we saw that in fashion and apparel and almost every category, people are visiting websites less and less. And that leads to organizations wanting to have more visibility in Gen AI and appearing more in AI answers. But even there, we're seeing that about 70% of brands don't constantly appear in those answers, and they're missing from conversations that matter. And these are really the 2 pain points that we see. On the one hand, I'm not getting as much traffic to my website as I wanted. And on the other hand, I'm not showing up in the AI answers as much as I wanted. So how do I kind of bridge that? And I think the best way to talk about it is through a buyer journey. And I want you all to envision that you're buying a computer, a MacBook, and then you go to Google and you start doing your research, MacBook, laptop, kind of see the different options. Then you go into Reddit because you want to hear what other people are thinking about it and what the community feedback is like. Then you do some price comparison. You go to Amazon, you go to Walmart, you check the different prices, and then you're ready to visit apple.com to better understand the product. But then there's this new stage that we've all been playing with lately, and that's ChatGPT. That's where we go to compare. That's my trusted advisor. That's my buddy. That's my friend. That's where I go to get the real comparison, the recommendations, and everything that I really, really need in order to make my purchase. And everybody, all the brands that come up in that short list are now brands that I start to consider. So we have on the one side, organic. 35% of US consumers use AI for product discovery. So it's not just me, it's not just you, it's 35% of US consumers, and this number is going and growing. So I have the conversation, and you know what, it's not just a keyword, it's not just like best MacBook in 2026. It's really a long conversation that I'm having. I'm looking for a new laptop. This is my budget. This is my need. I'm having so much context poured into the conversation. And that's where my short list is being formed, right? That's where I see, okay, you have this MacBook, that MacBook, that MacBook. This may be a different provider for a computer, a different type of computer that you should buy. Maybe it's a Dell, maybe it's an HP, maybe it's a Lenovo. That's kind of where it's the place for more brands to come into the conversation. And now what we're seeing with paid is that exactly that. New brands that I didn't consider before are now being added to the conversation. In 20% of conversations in the US in ChatGPT free and go tiers, there are now commercials. There are now ads being served relevant to the conversation. In each conversation, one brand, one turn, no competition. So before I was thinking of buying my MacBook on Walmart or on Amazon, but here now I have this new retailer that I wasn't even thinking about, Best Buy, offering me a MacBook for $1,750, and maybe I'll buy here. And now to sum it up, how paid fits in organic and AI search. So we said that the common pain point sits in traffic and in visibility. We know that for visibility, organizations invest a lot in GEO and in coming up in these AI answers. But we know that less than 0.13% of this visibility effort actually leads back to traffic. So that's something we have to keep maintaining for the visibility, the GEO. But we can't expect that to fill the gap and to answer the pain points that we were talking. And that's where paid comes into the picture, because the ads on ChatGPT allow you two things. Through CPM campaigns, they allow you to fill up that visibility gap, join the conversation, and be more visible where you weren't before in an organic way. And of course, control the click. Have CPC campaigns that will lead back to your website, that will have a more compelling and offering for your product relevant to the conversation. And we believe that to win the AI search and to win the AI era, the strategy is the synergy. In organic, get recommended constantly, and in paid, win back the click and appear in conversations you weren't before. Our research recently showed that organizations that do have ads on ChatGPT are seeing a peak of 5.4% CTR, click-through rate, meaning this is working. It is sending website back to their, it is sending traffic back to their website. And we want you to kind of have in mind that the strategy has to be both of them. If you take yourself back to when search was even established, organic and paid have always gone side by side and together. And this new search channel and this new AI search isn't anything different. So this is just me setting up the scene. This webinar will focus on paid. And now I'm happy to give Harel the mic to share our recent insights from the report that we did on AI ads. Harel?
Thank you, Liat. Hello, everyone. Good morning, at least for me. So let's go. So here's what we can share with you. As we're seeing it right now, for the last few months, on the monthly average, we estimate that around 460 people actually converse with ChatGPT and discover products. And they do this inside conversations. And what we also see is that ChatGPT is growing significantly, 39% year over year, and this is following several very strong years of growth. And this 39% of growth puts ChatGPT now at the point where they're equivalent to 15% of Google search reach Google search scale. This is a very significant thing, and all of that is happening while Google aren't growing. What you see in green is the share of ChatGPT out of Google. So Google are pretty much stagnating search-wise over the last almost a year. And when we look at the three platforms or the three different solutions, if you wish, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google AI Mode, and AI Overview, they are very different. Things might change soon. We just had the Google I/O and there was some announcement made. Nothing that is major for today, but on ChatGPT, we are seeing a very standard, I would say, and very minimal but significant format of an ad showing the title, the image, the description, just right after at the end, bottom of an LLM response or the ChatGPT response. But the unique part, as Liad also mentioned, it's just that brand. You won't be sharing that ad moment with other brands. This is important. And the targeting is topic or intent-based. Hard to say. Jonathan will elaborate soon exactly about how it's done and what are hints. And you will hear more about it. I'm sure you're looking to understand that. And when we look at the ads are being fired 44% on the first response when the engine responds for the first user prompt. But in 56%, which is the vast majority of cases, it actually appears further down the conversation when it's much clearer what the user is after and that there is an ad that can actually complement what they're seeking. On Google AI mode, which is the very little share of activity for Google search, if you wish, that's the Gemini version for the web. That's where you see the same shopping and text ad as you see also in AI reviews, as you see also on the search campaigns and elsewhere on Google assets and surfaces. And this is where it's still behaving like a pure keyword match. We're seeing a behavior which is just the conventional behavior of Google to date. They really target the keywords towards the immediate first turn, first prompt of the user in the conversation, and we barely see ads coming in later, deeper into the conversation. And this is really a huge gap, huge difference. Both ChatGPT and Google AI Mode are active in few countries, mostly the United States for both ChatGPT and Google AI Mode. Google AI Reviews is something else. Google AI Reviews are basically the AI summaries that you see on the Google search homepage that are complemented with ads as well. Now, when you're looking on a SERP, it's all ads, right? You have the carousel, the shopping, below the AI overview, above the AI overview. It's already very hard to find for many of the keyword terms a page with organic results, I'll be honest. But we are seeing, at least via our very large panel, more than 100,000 active brands every day, and it changes the type of brands that we are seeing from one day to the other. It's many more. And it's the same types of formats, but it's again a shared moment. You're sharing the ad moment with other brands, other advertisers at the same very moment, and it's not just you. And again, it's targeting the search query, but actually I will add to that on AI overview, it's targeting mostly the search query and the response, the AI generated response of the AI overview, not just the search query. And that's the difference. So you can't really look at them as an identical thing. As you may know, ads are running for a while now also on Microsoft Copilot, which is another platform. We're looking to also give visibility into that, but that's where it starts and stops. There were others like Claude who said we're not going to do ads. We had Perplexity that tried ads and took them off because they claimed it is hindering the performance or the experience of the user. So different companies take different approaches. But free services cannot stay free forever, and something needs to finance those. And that's the angle that ChatGPT and Google are taking for now. So this is more or less how it looks. You can see here on the left-hand side the ChatGPT ad moment and the ad just below the response. Sometimes it's a single ad card. Sometimes it's a carousel of two cards, but it's always the same brand with one or two ads. The AI mode ads appear again right after the response at the bottom of the response, but it might appear with several ads at the same time or with a product carousel. And on the right hand side, you see the AI overview. In this example, that's the product carousel example. Now, what we're also seeing that 83% of the prompts, the ad triggering queries, if you wish, the last prompt of the user before the ad are such that would have never triggered an ad on Google. They're part of the conversation, they're part of the context, but they're not the explicit term that we use to set up in our Google search to connect the user intent or user request or user query to an ad. So it's just part of conversation. Sometimes that might be just a response from the user saying yes, no, okay. Please expand on that. It might be very limited query that's a part of conversation. That's not something that you cannot just target explicitly. It's very different. So the way the ChatGPT are working, that they read the entire conversation, not the keyword, contrary to Google right now. And that's what earns the conversation. The context that is being developed, the intent that is being developed throughout the conversation. The user is in his journey, as Liat showed earlier, progressing. By the way, some of the journey that Liat had shown is now compressing, and more of the journey, and Jonathan will share about that as well. We're seeing that now happening inside the chatbot, inside the ChatGPT, inside the AI mode. Basically, that expands the portion of the journey. It's happening much faster from initial discovery or understanding of the problem and need to the purchase even. This is the extreme cases where everything happens there. Now, when you look at ChatGPT conversations, they are deeper than Google AI mode, significantly deeper. There are more engagements there. So the type of the users, they behave differently with either. I believe that Google are doing their work towards also, and we've heard about it a bit in Google I/O the other day, into expanding the usage also in AI mode and rolling it out more significantly to be more of a default in many cases gradually. But basically, we see that an average ChatGPT conversation has 17 turns, 17 messages between the two parties. So basically, user LLM, and eventually the LLM answers and the conversation stops. That's why it's an uneven number. And we see here also that the conversation would usually continue after an ad for even 4 more turns. So it doesn't stop the conversation. And this is happening for 73% of conversations. If there was an ad, 73% of conversation will continue further after the ad. That's also a good signal that this is not hurting the brand perception or the trust or creating any trust issue for the end user to continue and converse with the chatbot. We can also share a bit about performance. So we've been looking at this for several weeks. These are numbers that we shared a few weeks ago already, but we're checking those daily. These are more or less the same numbers every day. The overall CTR is 0.68, so well above the average for display. More like if you wish a very hard sell retargeting display campaign, but definitely already above certain social campaigns out of the gate, and can definitely be at the point where we're seeing it when it's well optimized and optimized now with the optimization towards CPC. You can see that also hitting numbers that are very good social campaigns and getting to the point where it's also in peak cases competing with search. And the only way for us at the moment to really understand how it works, because it's relatively still a very small share of traffic on our side. We're monitoring this closely and looking forward to be at the time where we can actually share with you also from the Similarweb data the performance, and that will happen soon. But hearing Jonathan later was very encouraging as to how that performs, because sometimes the CTR and conversion rates are not exactly the same. So you'll hear more about the quality of the traffic post-click, post-exposure even from Jonathan. So when we're looking at the pricing, this is very initial figures that were advertised months ago about the assumed CPM. People were speaking about $30, $60 CPM. So even if we take that number and imply our median 0.5% CTR here that we see, this means $12 CPC. So before the advertiser could have set a CPC goal, this looked like a very lucrative, very expensive premium CPC. But now there are more options for the buyers on ChatGPT, and it's open for many more to use and to actually configure exactly their goals. So it can be much cheaper. Now let's speak about intent. I think this is the most exciting part of this entire conversational surface. This is where we've started to build our own taxonomy to identify and classify intent during conversations and understand how that works, and to see when there is a commercial intent. We decided to classify initially as a prompt, later on groups of prompts, like a moving window of prompts, if you wish, within the conversation, and understand where the conversation is going intent-wise. Is the user looking to complete a task? Is the user looking to actually just converse, play, entertain, navigate, get information, research, or maybe buy something or transact? So we're looking to always classify each and every moving window of messages in conversation towards one or more types of intent, like I just described, and give those weights and see how the weight changes as the conversation evolves. And that's what we're working on, and we're enhancing this now, and that will be part of the first product that we will release for Ad Intelligence that will give you insights into the conversations and the intent of the user. So what we've seen that 46% of conversations get 0 weight on commerciality. There's no commercial signal. User is asking something super informational, like this example here below. User started the conversation. It's a conversation that was 70 turns by saying, I would like to understand who are the buyers of acid oils. Okay. It's all about the user looking to export it. But who are the buyers? That's how this conversation started. So it took 50 turns for the user to understand and get answers around the market research, who are the buyers, how to identify the buyers. And then the user said to the chatbot, how can I reach those? I want to reach out to these potential buyers. And that's when the LLM responded, sure, here's how you should do this, and complemented that with an ad of HubSpot where the title of the ad was Scale Your Outreach. And that's basically where the exact moment was much deeper into the research phase of the user when he was actually already leaning in to do some action and had some need where a tool that had a product that had the right advertisement available for ChatGPT was introduced to him. And what we're also seeing that even if we have conversation that start with some opening intent around commerciality with certain signal, we see that strengthened throughout the conversation. So the weight of the intent changes, and by the time we show an ad, it's going towards even 69%. So these are the three moments we're trying to capture, and sometimes if there are more ad moments, then you have another intent moment. So we're capturing the intent in various sections of the conversation, the opening, the ad moment, few ad moments if there are, sometimes there are two. It's more or less between 1 and 3, but mostly it's 1.5, if I recall correctly, the average. And we also try to analyze the intent as the conversation ends. And that's what we're capturing. And I think that's the most important thing to understand. Search told you what people wanted. Conversation showed you where they're becoming, where they're going, where they're headed. And the bigger the portion of the user journey that the chatbot is taking means that we as an advertiser have less visibility as for what's going on there, and we need to be much smarter as for this evolution process and understand how can we optimize towards being in those conversations, sometimes maybe early on or later on, and have the right content and the right messages, even to things that are not about directly selling a product. Maybe about how, for example, in the HubSpot example for before, maybe HubSpot need to create some more ads and content around how to actually help you discover who are your potential clients for a certain service, product, commodity, whatever that is. So this is the taxonomies I shared with you briefly, verbally a second ago. So informational, commercial, conversational, and navigation are the most common one that you all know from search. This was developed in 2002 by a nice person that introduced that, and it stuck. And that's what everyone are using for a while, but it doesn't cover everything that happens out of search, out of web search. Out of web search, there are other things when you look at chatbots, transactional, task completion, personal, and entertainment. That's how we develop the framework to include those additional new sections. And we look at ad penetration. Liat shared earlier the numbers. When you look, the number that Liat shared earlier was about just United States, just the eligible tiers in ChatGPT, which are the free and go tiers. This goes towards the 20% even, right? So this is the portion of conversation seeing ads. But when you look at the entirety of ChatGPT globally, only 1.5% of conversations actually include ad. And that shows how much more room for growth is expected and why it's important that you will start monitoring this new advertising channel. The penetration on AI mode is very low, actually decreasing a bit now. And we're trying to also understand what they're doing, but they are doing many changes. We saw the differences in the algorithm where in the conversation the ad appears. And we know that Google have so many advertisers, but those advertisers are configured with certain campaigns, certain goals, certain settings, certain CPCs, certain keywords. They're tuned to search. They're not tuned to conversation. And I think many changes will happen here. And at some point, advertisers will be also suggested to add more settings, configurations, or insights into their campaigns, like the newer approach that ChatGPT took. You'll hear about it in a bit from Jonathan. So what we don't see direct brands like consumer packaged goods running on ChatGPT or AI mode. We don't see banks and credits. We don't see health and pharma. We don't see auto and OEM dealers, and we don't see anything around fast food and restaurants. And that's still not there. Why? Can't say exactly why, but that's the situation. So these are really very empty spaces for anyone to go in. And it's really hard to optimize when you look at the data. that you get directly from ChatGPT or AI mode or sorry, Google for AI mode and AI overview, you really don't get any data. You barely get any data. You see that your campaign may be serving mode, but you cannot know if it was served on AI mode or AI overview or not and how much. You can see a breakdown of that performance. You don't know who you're competing against there, who you're being shown next to, and you don't know what were the responses of the LLM you were presented next to. So you're really in the dark, and that's where we can come in and help you with more insights from a very significant panel about the conversation, the real conversation. And remember, real data is not synthetic data. Everything that you hear about there, out there about GEO, AEO, and also anything paid, which is just now emerging. I'm hoping that we're going to be the first one with a real product around that this quarter. So synthetic is not real conversation. Everything's synthetic for both AEO and any other monitoring event for paid is one interaction. So that's basically an engine trying to mimic user behavior, sending one prompt, getting one response, and that's where it stops. It's not a conversation. This is not the real world. You have to look at the real world to really be able to optimize to the real world. Synthetic is helping. It's important, but it's not going to get you to the point of optimal behavior, optimal results.
Thank you, Harel. I think that was the last slide for Similarweb. And now I'm happy to welcome Jonathan Vardy to talk about how it looks from the advertiser side. So, Jonathan, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Liat. Thank you, Ariel. Thanks for having me. We as a company and me personally have been working very closely with Similarweb to close to a decade now. And in a moment, I'll show what it is we do, and you'll see how Similarweb is very relevant to that. So while Similarweb helps you understand how you compare with other brands in your category or in your space, we help your consumers do that. We are all about matching users who are in the market for something or the relevant audience for something with the right brand for their specific use case. Now, where there's a strong match, then everybody's happy. The brand is happy, they got the ideal customer for them. The customer is happy because they got something that really fits their needs. And we've been doing that for over 15 years now in multiple channels with ChatGPT ads being the newest one. And it's, as you can see, it's a very organic fit to what we do. In terms of just the sheer scale, we have over $50 million in monthly ad spend across Google, Microsoft, Meta, TikTok, OpenAI now, and we are working very closely with all of these companies. It's all about driving consumer decisions over 5 million a month and creating strong matches that when a user gets to one of our advertisers' websites, it really is a good fit for them. And the scale of advertisers and the scale of fields we're in is also quite broad, which gives us a broad perspective into how, in this case, ChatGPT ads work across different spaces. If you're in the audience and you see your name here, hi. We work with a lot of different advertisers across finance and insurance, across consumer and online services, across SMB and B2B software services. And while the majority of our advertisers, you can see, are US based, a lot of them are global or target a global audience. And we have, of course, APAC advertisers as well. And because we started very early and invested very heavily in mastering this new channel, and because we launched so many areas, as Liat mentioned previously, we're one of the largest advertisers on the platform and have been since very early stages. And many of the other top names here are advertisers we also work with. So enough about us. Let's talk about ChatGPT ads and what we learned because it says. The first thing is, as Harel mentioned, is that we can definitely say that it works. There's not only good engagement and users continuing the conversation after they see the ads. but they click the ad, they engage with the site, and they convert for advertisers. We've already been able to create substantial value for our advertisers with ChatGPT ad users. The KPIs are quite impressive for a channel that's still so new. So yes, the commercial potential. If there was a big question on whether this works at all, I think we can answer that by now. Yes, it does, or it can. Um, Continuing a previous theme, this is you are very interested in conversations about your brand, about your category, about what your product can solve. And ChatGPT Ads is a way to be in these conversations and for users to be mindful of your product as they're thinking about their problems, their needs, your category, or even your brand specifically. And we like to say that during this conversation between the user and the chat, an ad is like raising your hand at some point during this conversation and saying something. It could be just a brief sentence, but you have your own voice there. And it's not only what the chat says about you, hopefully good things, but something that you get to advocate for yourself, or in our case, advocate for our advertisers and bring the message. So the way we look at where this channel is in comparison to other channels that we're all very familiar with and we all have marketing budgets for, if on one extreme there are the demand generation platforms, social video, display native, where the user is not currently trying to do anything related to your category, but it may be good audience targeting. Oh, I wasn't looking for this right now, but this looks kind of interesting. Great, that would be a good ad on demand generation. On the other extreme, there's search. The user is very precise in their language. That's what Google taught us. You have to type in a small number of keywords and get and express a very specific need as to what you want to do. So an ad there is for somebody who's already decided they need to do something and they just need to pick what, how, where to do it. And the huge spectrum in between these two extremes is now being populated by chat. It can be someone who's still in a very early stage, just figure out they have a problem and they're trying to solve it. They could be trying to learn about something related to a product or a service. Or they could be asking a very specific question. Is this a good product? Is this a brand I can trust? This very broad spectrum is encountered on chat and we encounter it as advertisers, which sounds daunting. So here's how we approach this. The key way in which we set up our campaign is that we completely move away from thinking of keywords. It could be that the words that I think are most relevant for my brand and have been most relevant for my brand for 20 years on search are not even in the conversation, as Harel mentioned. So we have to think in terms of intents, in terms of topics. The way we structure it is that we go into our valuable landing pages, where on our websites we want users to be. And for each of these pages, we break them down and we say, okay, what intents are actually served by this page? What could users be wanting? And this page is the perfect answer for. So from these ads, from these landing pages, we think of the intents and we turn each of these intents into ad copy. So there will be a very good fit between what the user is trying to do, what their intent is, what the ad they're seeing is, and what the experience they're actually getting is. That's how we drive performance on this channel. And 3 months in or so, there's a lot we know and a lot that we don't know. And some of these will remain open questions, and we'll need to keep using external tools to answer them. We know that the majority of US users seeing ads. There were some questions about the timeline for additional countries. Canada, Australia already launched, but not yet fully scaled. We know that the UK, Japan, and South Korea are next within the next month and a half. There isn't a clear timeline yet for other countries, but if I had to venture a guess, I would say later in the year. As I mentioned, users are engaging, converting. We know that for a fact by now. And the two campaign types that Liat mentioned, CPM and CPC, have both proven their value in different ways for different goals, as Liat touched on. You can definitely validate that based on our own data. The unknowns are very big. Um, we don't know who saw our ads. We don't know their traits for or very limited indication, and we don't know what the conversation was. As we think about these are the intents I want to address, but we don't actually know where they are in the context of any conversation. Attribution is a huge unsolved challenge. We don't know anything about which users saw our ads and didn't click through to our sites, which makes measurements and attribution an unsolved problem. And while we are seeing the engagement metrics, the conversion metrics, because it's a new channel, nobody knows how the lifetime behavior of these cohorts is going to be, what the lifetime value is going to be in relation to what we see on other channel. And let's be open about that. Nobody knows yet. And to sum up the good, the bad, and the ugly of ChatGPT ads as of late May. The good is regaining control in conversations, raising your hand and speaking in conversations that are relevant to what you do. Yes, you can drive performance and in some cases drive good ROI from these campaigns. Now is definitely the time to capitalize on early mover advantages. Once it opens in the countries that you serve, you can definitely collect data earlier and more cheaply than advertisers who will be later going in. The bad, like we said, we don't have enough information as to what was said in this conversation that we're now raising our hand and saying something in. Attribution, I mentioned, and the ugly, and again, being very open here. The platform is changing very, very rapidly, which means that as an advertiser, you need to monitor it a lot. You need to be very aware of changes. You can't rest assured that something that worked now will work 2 weeks from now because the algorithm keeps changing and adapting. And a lot of the capabilities we're used to as advertisers are just not there yet. But the pace of evolution is super, super rapid. It's like OpenAI is trying to redo the last 20 years of digital advertising in like 20 weeks. And they're pretty much halfway there, I think.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Harel. And I think that leads us to a short Q&A session here. I think the first question that a lot of people are wondering is, well, you were one of the first companies to run ads on ChatGPT, and the price range was the commitment was pretty large. What made you go for it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, in our case, it's our commitment to our advertisers, right? We're there to drive results for brands, and when we have to use all available tools in order to get them there, and if this is a new channel that can be substantial, we have to start not only driving performance, but driving expertise in how it works. But the more general answer would be consider the learning value that you're going to get as opposed to the learning investment that you're going to need. This is going to require both media investment, but also a lot of attention and an experimentation mindset. For us, the equation was very clear. Learning is very much worth the investment. But I think everyone in the audience, every potential advertiser on ChatGPT needs to ask them that in this sense at this point. Is learning early worth it to me to invest effort, budgets, attention in mastering this at this moment?
And I think that leads to a question I can take here from the chat on what tips would you have for intent in ChatGPT versus keywords for search? Have people been using search keywords and amending that, or should it be a totally a new approach? And maybe you can give an example.
Yeah. So first of all, you don't actually know what users type into ChatGPT through the platform itself, at least. So it's not like there's a keyword to conversation to add kind of mapping at all. The way you communicate what topics you want to, what conversations you want to be in, they call this context hints. You give hints to the algorithm as to what sorts of conversations are relevant. In terms of a deep and a concrete example, I'll go back to what I mentioned previously. Let's think of a specific page that we have that's very valuable to us, and this is about mortgage rates and picking the right mortgage offer for a specific user. And there's a very nice wizard there about if you have this credit score, then this is a good option for you. I look at this and I think this is an intent. A mortgage offers for a specific credit score is definitely an intent that, it's a very reasonable guess that people are going to have this intent and express this intent on chat. Okay, if this is an intent to focus on, then I need to translate that into ads that mention mortgage rate offers for good credit or whatnot, or here's where you can find them. And this is really how we've been driving performance. Thinking of the intents we express and, closing the loop there as cleanly as possible.
Amazing. And I'm gonna add one more question here on this topic. So there was a question here in the chat, curious of what type of content across the LLMs have been helpful. I see the mentioning of targeted intent, but what type of pages does the LLM enjoy, more product related or listicle types?
Yeah. Okay. I'll give my answer, and then Harel, you probably have more to add on that. So let's separate between the organic and the paid. In organic, yes, LLMs are in love with lists, structured content of all sorts. They're incredibly lazy, trying to save compute, and they like things that are very structured and gives them the answers very quickly. However, ads are for users. And what a page you promote that you buy traffic for on ChatGPT needs to give added value beyond the chat. Okay, assume that the user is already getting a lot of information on chat. In the example Harel gave, they already went through like what was it, 25 messages, each way before they get to your ad. So the ad needs to be about something, about an action, about the next step in the journey that goes beyond just getting more and more generic information. And I think it's very important to differentiate between the two.
Thank you, Jonathan. And that leads me to my question to Harel on what does Similarweb let you see in this channel that you couldn't see before or that you can't see more correctly?
Yeah. So when you can see for the full conversation, this is what our engines can see of millions of users. This allows us to be able and really extract the evolution of the conversation, the intent that changes, the topic of the ads, the topic of the conversation, how those things are matching. And then we can provide a whole view around who else is showing ads under the same ad category like me, where my ads are appearing, where my competitors' ads are appearing, what is the topic of those conversations, and what I might need to do in order to have the fitting ads also for those conversations which I'm not part of. As we see the full conversation, which we cannot share with our clients for PII reasons, the engines on our side can come up with the exact recommendations for the next ads that you need to make sure you have. So it's not just about showing you your competitor ads. We can really generate for you in the coming product releases the right next ads to include that would fit the context and the terminology and the type of questions that the users are asking the LLM. So this is one very significant area, but also to discover, regardless to conversations showing ads or not showing ads, really look at the entirety of conversation, maybe even especially the ones without ads at the moment, and trying to discover those cohorts of content, conversations, and interactions that users have with the chatbots in order to understand how can I expand, how can I grow, to which areas users actually have significant interest, and how that maybe relates to my business and what I do, and maybe I should actually invest in that area because there's a lot of chatter around that, right, by users. So that's how we can really help, and this is the product that we're building for all advertisers to use.
Thank you, Harel. And last question for me. We started this conversation with understanding that optimizing an AI search has two sides to it, the organic GEO and the paid ads. Jonathan, maybe we can start by you answering this. How do you think about the synergy between organic and paid here?
Okay. Let's picture the ideal situation, the ideal chat conversation for an advertiser. Now, what would that look like? That would look like a conversation where the chat mentions the brand very positively in the context of the conversation, because either, as I mentioned, the brand makes its value very visible, very clear to the chat engine, to the lazy engine as to what I'm solving, or maybe third-party sources did that and show that value to the chat engine. So the brand is already being mentioned during the conversation. And at some point, the user is ready to take the next step, ready to take an action, ready to leave the chat and go out into the real world. And if the ad hits them at this moment, hey, this is the next step, take it with me, offer your hand, extend your hand, then this is the perfect synergy of organic and paid. And even though it's an ideal scenario, I think that's the right approach in terms of what the goal of the synergy between organic presence and ad presence would be.
Thank you. Harel, do you have anything to add on that?
No, that was great.
Thanks.
Perfect. So maybe we can take one or two questions from the chat. Marel, I see you've been answering a lot of them. Do you have one that you want to surface here? Or should I pick one?
Let's see, let's pick something. I'm having a look. So there were a few questions, still are a few open questions around geographies. So it's mostly United States for ChatGPT, but also New Zealand, Australia, and Canada, I believe.
Yeah.
And for Google AI mode, we see 99 point something percent United States. We see some leaks, but maybe that's also misclassification of traffic. So geographies, these are the geographies. You can open an account easily if you have if you're coming from United States IP address. I've seen also other IP addresses where the ads.openai.com domain actually gives you the sign up form and the sign up process. But eventually, you will need during that process to provide details of a US entity, a US company, to complete the creation of the account. So that's the main blocker for anyone that really wants to run ads on OpenAI right now. That was another question that we had here. Europe, I believe, will come soon, but maybe some delays with regulations. We will see how that will play. APAC, I believe, will come soon. I see that ChatGPT are really aggressive with the rollout and with their scale. So I believe it won't take much weeks to months until we will see it in other continents as well. That's my gut feeling, nothing that I can confirm. What else we add here?
Maybe there's a good one now that I can see.
Mhm.
What would you advise for marketing teams in Europe in terms of preparing for AI ads? If you would have a chance to experience the start of AI ads again, what would you do differently? I think Jonathan, maybe you can speak to this one. So,
Yeah. So what I would do and first of all, I would have loved to run this all over again with what we know now. Yeah, hindsight is 2020. So I think the main thing I would do differently is first take this very structured approach of, in preparation of these are our valuable web assets. What intents do they serve? Make sure these intents are very well mapped and very well covered by the ad set that you're running. That's one. And two, have a very clear separation between what you want to do on CPC versus what you want to do on CPM. Yes, it is important to show up in a lot of conversations that are relevant, but this is not the same as driving performance from these conversations. And also, decide how you want to allocate your budget between these two early on and your learnings early on. It may be easier to start with just one of them, get learning, and then add the other and start with a mix of both. And I cannot stress this enough. Don't mistake this for what it is not. Don't think of it as a mature platform that's been optimized for 20 years. Don't think of it as just search keywords with a hat on. Okay. Consider that this range of intents that we've spoken about and structure your approach like that.
Thank you. I'm going to close the Q&A for now, and you can keep writing in the chat, of course. And I just want to add a few words on how Similarweb can help you win in the AI era. So Similarweb data is based on real user behavior, real panel data, millions of users worldwide that we see their interactions within LLMs. We offer a full marketing and market research platform all the way from web intelligence to GEO and, of course, ads covering display, social, search, and now ads and LLMs. We see what's actually happening inside the internet. We understand human behavior. We know how to classify it. We know how to deliver you the insights that are actionable for your business. And our data is consumed in any way that you want it. Platform, API, MCP, agents, whatever fits your workflow. We're proud and happy and challenged to take this approach of supporting you in winning in the AI era. And we're the only platform that really shows you the both sides of AI search, organic on one hand and paid on the other hand. In our organic solution, for SEO or GEO teams, we have brand visibility, share of voice, brand sentiment, so you can really track how you're showing up across ChatGPT, Gemini, AI Mode, and Perplexity. You understand the AI traffic and what brands earn the referrals, which pages convert, and where competitors are capturing high intent visits. In terms of our ad intelligence solution for PPC and pay teams, we enable you to have competitive ad tracking, understand which brands are buying placements in ChatGPT, Google AI Mode, and as I mentioned before, also in display search, social, to understand how they break the pie of their budget across all of these channels, and to spot opportunities, find these high intent conversations your competitors are missing, classified by topic or by intent, and with impressions, CTR, ad spends, and a bunch of other metrics that we can offer you as well. With Similarweb solution, you can really see both sides of AI search and optimize to get the best results that you can. Thank you for joining us today. Let's keep the conversation going. Our emails are here. You're more than welcome to email us directly. The deck and the recording will be shared with you on email right after, in the next couple of days, right after it processes. And I want to say thank you to Harel and for Jonathan for your time today, for sharing these insights and your learnings. It's been super interesting. And let's see where this goes. Thank you, everyone.